Hello, welcome to our YouTube channel. Our report for today is Chapter 5, Bilingualism and Second Language Acquisition. Introduction. Many people believe that it is more difficult for older children and adults to learn another language, given the same amount of exposure in the same way in both language. These chapters examine the topic of second language acquisition in more details. Objectives. Know how young children can acquire two languages simultaneously, understand how we can learn a second language in adulthood, have some ideas about how second language should be best taught. Bilingualism. So what is bilingualism? Bilingualism is the ability to speak and understand two languages fluently. It's common in many parts of the world, and people became bilingual in different ways. Types of bilingualism. Simultaneous bilingualism. This occurs when someone learns two languages at the same time, typically from birth. For example, children raised in homes where two languages are spoken. The second is sequential bilingualism. This happens when a person learns one language, first language, and then acquires a second language later, such as in school or after moving to a new country. Cognitive benefits. Cognitive flexibility. Bilinguals are better at switching between tasks, solving problems, and focusing on what's important as they are used to managing two languages at once. Delaying cognitive decline. Studies show that bilingualism can help delay the onset of cognitive conditions like dementia by building up cognitive reserve. P.S. What is cognitive reserve? Cognitive reserve is the mind's and brain's resistance to damage of the brain. The mind's resilience is evaluated behaviorally. Language processing. Bilinguals often activate both languages in their brain even when speaking or listening to just one. This can lead to code switching, where they switch between language within conversation. They may face language interference, where one language influences the other, but they usually develop ways to manage this. Like for example, the accent of the first language may influence the second language. Challenges. There are many challenges when you are bilingual. First is language dominance. One language often becomes stronger or more dominant depending on how frequently it's used. And second is language attrition. If a bilingual person stops using one language for a long time, they may start to forget or lose fluency on it. So when you forget your first language, when you don't always talk to that first language, that's the summarize of it. And the conclusion is bilingualism offers significant cognitive and cultural advantages, but it also comes with challenges like balancing two languages and maintaining fluency in both. Overall, bilingual individuals benefit from greater mental flexibility and access to multiple cultural worlds. Thank you.
Welcome to this report about second language acquisition. The purpose of this report is to know and understand how individuals learn a second language other than their native one. The aim is to provide a clear understanding about second language acquisition, and by examining those information, I hope to offer valuable insights that will assist to empower effective communication and cultural engagement. Let's proceed to the main content of the report. What is second language acquisition? Second language acquisition, sometimes called second language learning or otherwise referred as language 2. It is the process by which people learn a second language. People learn a language other than their native tongue. Second language acquisition happens when a child or an adult has already become competent at a language and then attempts to learn another. We should distinguish between learning a second language naturalistically and class-based instruction. So, when a child or a person moves to a new country, he or she can learn the language of that country, and that's his or her second language. So here's the reason why people find second language acquisition difficult. Number 1. Some aspects of learning, particularly involving syntax, are more difficult outside the critical period. Second language acquisition involving learning a language other than one's native tongue, including aspects like vocabulary, grammar, and syntax. Learning a second language can be particularly challenging outside the critical period due to reduced brain plasticity, increased cognitive load, transfer effects from native language, and differences in learning environments and strategies. Adults find it harder to master complex syntactic structure because their brains are less adaptable and they face additional cognitive and environmental challenges compared to the younger learners. Number 2. All children and adults often have a less time and motivation to learn a second language. So, older and adults often find second language acquisition challenging due to limited time motivation. As people age, they typically have busier schedules and fewer opportunities for immersive practice compared to younger learners. Additionally, maintaining motivation can be difficult due to competing responsibilities and the demands of daily life. These factors contribute to reduced exposure and practice, making it harder to learn and master a new language effectively. An example in number 2 is when an adult working a full-time job might find it challenging to dedicate sufficient time to language classes or practice sessions. Unlike younger students who might have regular, immersive exposures to the language through school and extracurricular activities, adults may struggle to balance language learning with their work, family responsibilities, and other commitments, making second language acquisition more difficult. Number 3. There will of course be similarities and differences between the first language and second language. People find second language acquisition difficult due to both similarities and differences between their first language and second language. Similarities can sometimes lead to false assumption or over-reliance on language 1 rules, causing errors in language 2. The differences, especially in grammar and syntax, create additional challenges as learners must adjust to new linguistic structures. For example, a native English speaker learning Spanish might find it challenging to master verb conjugations, while English and Spanish share some vocabulary and have similar sentence structures. Spanish has more complex verb tenses and conjugation rules. This difference requires the learner to adapt new grammatical patterns that don't exist in English, making second language acquisition more difficult. There is some evidence that the time course of language to acquisition follows a U-shaped curve. Initial learning is good, but then there is a decline in performance before the learner becomes more skilled, by McLaughlin and Heredia in 1996. The decline in performance is associated with the substitution of more complex internal representation for less complex ones. That is the learner's knowledge. Let's proceed to the methods used to teach a second language. Number 1. Traditional method. Direct translations from language 1 to language 2 lectures in grammar in language 1. So, traditional method is based on translation from one to another with lectures in grammar in the primary language. So, example, when a student learns French by translating sentence from English to French and vice versa, students might translate "the cat is on the mat" into French as "le chat est sur le tapis," and then analyze the grammatical rules involved. Number 2. Direct method. Direct method all teaching done in language 2 with emphasis and conversational skills. Direct method is one in odd is 1, on the other hand, carry out all teaching in language 2. It focuses on speaking and listening practice using everyday vocabulary and grammatical structures in context. Example, conducting a French class where all instructions, conversation, and activities are done in French. The teacher might use a role-play activity where students practice ordering food in a cafe using only French to simulate real-life interactions and improve their speaking and listening skills. Number 3. Audiolingual method. Speaking and listening are emphasized rather than reading and writing. Audiolingual method uses repetition, drills, and practice with spoken dialogues to help students internalize grammar and vocabulary. Example, when students might repeatedly practice a dialogue where they order food at a restaurant, using audio records and drills to reinforce correct pronunciation, intonation, and sentence structure before moving on to reading menus or writing about their experiences. Number 4. Immersion method. Learner taught exclusively through medium of language 2. Immersion method involves teaching students entirely in the foreign language using it as the medium for all instructions and interaction. An example of this immersion method is a classroom where all subjects such as math, science, and social studies are taught in Spanish. Students learn academic context while simultaneously acquiring Spanish through everyday instruction and activities. And last but not the least, the submersion method. Learners is surrounded exclusively by speakers of language 2, usually in a social setting of foreign country. Submersion method is when the learners must navigate their daily life and interactions entirely in language 2, relying on immersion to force language acquisition. Example, a student studying abroad in Japan and attending a local Japanese high school where all classes and interactions are conducted in Japanese. The student must use Japanese to communicate with peers, understand lessons, and complete assignments, relying on immersion to learn the language through necessity and real-life experience. So, this work of Krashen has proved influential, if controversial, in understanding how we might better teach language. Let's move on to the 5 hypotheses proposed by Krashen in 1982. The first one is acquisition and learning distinction hypothesis. Children acquire their first language largely unconsciously. Children acquire their first language largely unconsciously and automatically they do not learn it. They acquire their first language through natural exposure and interaction rather than through deliberate learning, which involves conscious study and rule memorization. It happens when children engage with their environment and caregivers. So, this acquisition, first hypothesis is lumalabas to as a natural, yung nalalearn nila as a natural, yung hindi sila tinuturuan, yung kusa nila itong natututunan. Number 2, natural order in acquisition hypothesis. It is the order of acquisition of syntactic rules, and the types of errors of generalization made are the same in both languages. It suggests that language learners acquire syntactic rules in a predictable sequence which similar across different languages. This means that the order in which learners grasp grammatical structure and the types of mistakes they make follow a consistent pattern regardless of the specific language being used. Example is How English learners typically first acquire basic verb tenses like the present simple word she eats before moving on to more complex tenses like the past perfect she had eaten. This progression and the common errors made such as overgeneralizing regular past tense forms eated instead of ate occur similarly across different languages. Number 3. Monitor hypothesis states that the acquisition processes create sentences in the second language. But learning enables the development of a monitoring process to check and edit his output. Number 4. Comprehensible input hypothesis. This hypothesis emphasizes the role of comprehension. In order to move from the one stage to the next, the acquirer must understand the meaning and the form of the input. It suggests that to learn a new language effectively, learners need to understand language that is just a bit more complex than what they already know. For example, if a learner understands basic sentences like, I see a cat, they will progress by being exposed to a slightly more complex sentence like, I see a cat in the roof. I see a cat on the roof, where they can still grasp the meaning and form, helping them to improve their language skills. Number 5. Active filter hypothesis says that attitude and emotional factors are important in second language acquisition. In active filter hypothesis, emotional factors like motivation, anxiety, and self-confidence can affect language learning. A positive attitude lowers the affective filter, facilitating cashier language acquisition, while negative emotions raise the filter, making learning more challenging. This helps explain why children who generally have more positive attitudes toward learning often acquire languages more easily than adults. Krashen's approach provides a useful framework and has proved to be one of the most influential theoretical approaches to teaching a second language. In addition to teaching method, individual differences between second language learners play some role in how easily people acquire language too. Krashen's approach provides a useful framework and has proved to be one of the most influential theoretical approaches to teaching a second language. In addition to teaching method, individual differences between second language learners play some role in how easily people acquire language too. Carroll in 1997 identified 4 sources of variation in people's ability to learn a new language. Number 1. Phonetic coding ability. It is the ability to identify new sounds and forms associations between them, an aspect of what is called phonological awareness. Phonetic coding ability refers to the skills of recognizing and differentiating new sounds in a language and connecting these sounds to their meanings. It involves phonological awareness, which is the understanding that sounds manipulate and combine to form words. Example, being able to distinguish between the sounds B and P and associating them with different letters is a key part of the ability. Number 2. Grammatical sensitivity. It is the ability to recognize the grammatical function of words and other syntactic structures. Grammatical sensitivity, it is the ability to identify and understand the roles of words and structure in sentences. For example, when you're recognizing that in the sentence, she runs quickly, runs is the verb and quickly is an adverb describing how the action is performed, demonstrate grammatical sensitivity. Number 3. Rote learning ability. It is the capacity to memorize information through repetition, such as learning vocabulary by repeatedly reviewing word lists. Example, A student repeatedly practices the Spanish, like in Spanish, house is for casa and book is for libro, until they can recall the Spanish word for each English word without reading to think about it. Number 4. Inductive learning ability. It is the ability to infer rules from data. Working memory plays an important role in foreign language vocabulary. So, the skill to infer grammatical rules or patterns from examples and observations, like noticing that verbs in English often end in ed for the past tense and then applying these patterns to new verbs. Let's proceed on how can we make second language acquisition easier. So, second language acquisition is often characterized by a phase or phases of silent periods when few productions are offered despite obvious development of comprehension. Classroom teaching methods that force a student to speak in these silent periods might be doing more harm than good. Newmark in 1996 argued that this has the effect of forcing the speaker back onto the rules of the first language. Hence, silent period should be respected. So, learners often experience a silent period where they understand the language but do not speak much. Forcing students to speak during this time can hinder their progress and cause them to rely on their first language's rules. Krashen in 1982 argued that we should make second language acquisition more like first language acquisition by providing sufficient comprehensible input. Krashen suggested that to effectively learn a second language, we should mimic first language acquisition by providing plenty of comprehensible input. The immersion method, where students are taught entirely in the target language like French in the Montreal School, follows this approach. This method helps students acquire the language well and may also enhance their other skills such as math. Sharp in 1920 identified what he called the 4 C's of successful modern language teaching. These are the communication, culture, context, and giving the learners confidence. So here's the 4 C's. Number 1. Communication. It emphasizes on oral communication. Communication successful language teaching focuses on these skills, helping learners engage in real conversations. Example, in the language class, students might practice dialogues, listen to native speakers, and participate in discussions. This approach ensures they can understand and express themselves in everyday situations, like ordering food or having a casual chat. Number 2. Culture. Learning about the culture and the emphasizing direction translation. It means focusing on cultural context rather than just direct translation. Example, instead of simply translating the sentence, "How are you?" word of word, students hear that in some cultures, this greeting may imply a deeper inquiry about someone's well-being. Number 3. Context. Providing comprehensible input. Providing comprehensible input information that learners can understand within relevant situations. Example, when teaching the word bank, a teacher might use a scenario about depositing money or talking about river bank instead of defining the word. By seeing bank in context, students can better understand its meaning and usage in different situations. And number 4 is the confidence given to learners. Finally, some particular methods of learning second language are, of course, better than others. Ellis and Beaton in 1993 reviewed what facilitates learning foreign language vocabulary. They concluded that simply rote repetition is best learning to produce the new words. Naturally, learners want to be able to do both, so a combination of techniques is the optimum strategy. Ellis and Beaton found that rote repetition is effective for memorizing and recalling a new vocabulary word, while using keywords is better for understanding and remembering their meanings. So this is the ending of my report. Thank you so much for reading it.
Evaluation of work on bilingualism and second language acquisition. The study of bilingualism and second language acquisition is an increasingly important topic in psycholinguistics. First, the way in which bilingual people represent and process two languages is of great interest to psycholinguists. Second, it is clearly important that we should be able to teach a second language in the most efficient way. Third, it provides us with an additional tool for investigating language and cognition. For example, Altariba and Soltano, 1996, used knowledge of how bilinguals store language to investigate the phenomenon known as repetition blindness. What is repetition blindness? Repetition blindness refers to the observation that people are very poor at recalling repeated words when the words are presented rapidly. For example, when given the sentence, "She ate salad and fish even though the fish was raw," participants showed very poor recall of the second presentation of the word fish. The explanation of repetition blindness is that the repeated word is not recognized as a distinct event and somehow becomes assimilated with the first presentation of the word. It appears to be visual and phonological similarity that is important in generating repetition blindness. Altariba and Soltano confirmed that meaning plays no part in repetition blindness using non-cognate translation equivalents. These are words in different languages that have the same meaning but different physical forms. They found that a sentence such as generated repetition blindness in fluent Spanish English participants had very poor recall for the second instance. Clearly, similarity in meaning cannot be responsible for the repetition blindness effect. The results also show that conceptual access in transition is very rapid for bilingual speakers and also that bilingualism may facilitate some aspects of memory. Learning and using one language is an impressive achievement. Learning and managing several is incredible. Summary: second language acquisition in adulthood and later childhood is difficult because it is not like first language acquisition. Second, there are probably both costs and benefits of learning two languages at once. There might be some general cognitive advantages. There has been much debate as to how we translate words between languages, in particular whether or not there are direct links between words in our mental dictionaries, or whether the entries are mediated by semantic links. Translation probably does involve conceptual mediation. Bilingualism is a useful tool for studying other language process.